All right. Well, thanks for sticking around for today's post show. Just more on the MacBook. And then we're going to talk about other things I learned that are a little more geeky, like do I need external backups and some accessories and stuff like that to go along with it. So um, I talked about some other things that have come out on the MacBook. One is that the base M3 only supports a single monitor. We talked about that. But here's the other thing that's a little more geeky. We didn't want to throw it in the show. So on the Pro chip, the reason we said that it's more of a middle ground chip and maybe a little closer to the M3 versus the M3 Max is they changed the core spread. So last year it used to be
Hmm.
on the 12 core model, and I've got the 11, not the 12. But on the 12 core model, you used to get 8 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. Now it's split 6 and 6. And so I'm assuming I've got 5 performance and 5 efficiency. Because I assume if they cut one out for my model, they probably cut a performance core out to keep that price down. So, um, and that's fine. One of the things to know about this is that those efficiency cores are really good. They're not the cores that only wake your MacBook up, right? I mean, they're actually doing real work, which is probably why my CPU load only sits at 29%, because a lot of this stuff is probably still running on those efficiency cores and not necessarily on all those performance cores. So
Hmm.
there is that split. That's one of the things that when that came out that I started to panic a little bit, and I had to remind myself of all the research I had done, and then I also had to remind myself, look, I'm going from Intel to Apple's third generation of silicon. I think I'm going to be okay no matter what I get, right? It's going to be a
Right.
dramatic
Right.
upgrade. So, and some of that I think, I mean, Apple knows how people use their stuff, right? They know who's buying what. They know how it's getting used, and they probably realize that in this Pro chip, for the things that are buying it and using it for,
Hmm.
this is a change they could make, because if you want to go high end, you're going to know you need the Max, and you're going to spend the money anyway. So make the Pro chip more middle tier, and that also allowed them to move that M3 down to replace the 13-inch. So
Right.
it probably is better. I think if I had those extra performance cores, I might get less battery life. And my performance is just fine right now, and I'm loving the battery life. So more
Right.
battery is never a bad thing.
Right. Right. So yeah, I guess. But wouldn't they put a bigger battery in? You know what
There's
I
only
mean to
so much
support that?
there's only so much space you can put in these machines, right? I mean, the chassis is the same size for all of the 14s. So, and that's why
Yeah.
the
Yeah, they
M3
are.
Max chip, I think they said, is a little less battery life too. So,
Yeah. And I remember the numbers that they put up. You did take a hit on the battery life. Not
yeah.
much. I think it was like 2 hours on some in some
Well, I
use
think the
cases or something
M3 they
like
said
that.
is 22 and the M3 Pro is 18. I didn't look at the Max, but
Right. Right.
so
So it's just a few hours.
yeah, but that's a big difference. And so, but I think
Yeah.
about it this way. I mean, I'm showing easy 18 hours,
Yeah.
right? So I'd rather have the battery life, especially where I've not seen this max out my CPU cores. Now, would it be great for our videos to export in 2 minutes instead of 11?
Yeah.
Sure. But the
It'll be
reality
great, but
is, with
not
my
necessary.
workflow, I export that video, then I go start doing all of our editing of our shorts and stuff. And by
Hmm.
the time that one is done, I've basically I'm doing work in parallel, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I couldn't do anything else on my machine for that 11 minutes, absolutely it locked up and took every ounce of resources,
Hmm.
then yeah, I might want more. But that's not the case. I can do everything else I need to while it's exporting that video. So,
Right.
would I
Right.
want less battery life and more performance for what I'm
Mm.
doing? I don't think so.
No. And I think most people are like that, right? Most people are going to want to be more portable, right? To be
Yeah.
more, to free themselves from these charges and stuff. So I think more people would opt for the better battery life than they would more performance,
Yeah.
right? Just the average person, we're talking the average Joe here. If you need more performance, you know you need more performance, right?
Yeah.
If you just want a newer laptop because your old one dies because you unplug it from the charger, but you just use it for a few web apps, Facebook, you do some shopping and things like that, then yeah, don't trade the battery life for performance. It's going to perform well regardless because it's a new M3 chip. Um, but yeah, maximize your battery life.
Yeah. I agree. And then we already touched on this briefly, but the whole debate over 8 gigabytes of memory versus 16 versus whatever. I mean, I thought it was interesting. I saw one YouTube video. It's somebody new, and I ended up subscribing, but they're a full stack developer, and they've been
Hmm.
working off a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air doing their full stack development, and it's been
Yeah.
fine for them. And they just barely are upgrading to this. And then Brandon Butch, that we follow,
Hmm.
was pushing the 8 GB of memory in the MacBook Pro as much as he could, and he's like, it's fine. So, and he
Yeah.
actually came out and flat out said, I know that's controversial to say that. I don't think the controversy over the memory is about whether 8 GB is enough, because it probably is for most people. I think the problem is Apple's margins on memory. So the prices haven't gone down, even though that's cheaper to make. And then when you
Yeah.
start looking at upgrading from 8 to 16, it's $200, which is a pretty steep increase. And so I think
It
that's where
is.
more of the pushback should be, is that it's just too expensive to upgrade for Apple. And since everything is integrated into the chip, you can't do anything after the fact. And so what Apple's doing, right, wrong, or whatever, I don't particularly like it, is they're saying, hey, you better buy everything you think you're ever going to need on this machine up
Hmm.
front, and you can only buy it from us. Whereas when um, I had another Mac. I must have had another Mac at some point, other than that other one that I just said was my first MacBook Pro. I think I must
Hmm.
have had one before that, because I remember buying extra RAM and popping it
Right.
open and putting
Oh,
it
back
in.
when we were able
Yeah.
to upgrade
So
them
I think it's
ourselves.
back
Yeah.
when I was in Texas, I had a different MacBook. And yeah, I could put the memory in it, but you just can't do that anymore. So you're a captive,
Yeah.
right? You either pay for everything you want right now and pay whatever margins Apple's asking for, or you just have to learn to live with it, which is kind of what I decided to do about my hard drive space. Right? I don't
Yes.
want to pay the $400 for an additional 512 gigabytes of space. That's
Hmm.
ridiculous. I'm just going to buy, like I said, I saw a 4 terabyte external drive super fast for like $250. And
Yeah.
that's not even the cheapest. That's not even a Black Friday
Yeah.
deal. So I'm going
Yeah.
to be able to find something that I need. So, yeah.
And you know, there's nothing wrong with talking about this 8 GB of memory. These machines are made to work. There's nothing wrong. It's always good to have more than what you need, but there's nothing wrong with working at 8 GB for everything that it's worth, right? Even if you're maxing out on that, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to break the machine, you
No, and there's
know?
debates about whether
Max it out.
swap is good or bad for the hard drive.
Yeah, because
You
there's
know, I
other
mean,
options to free up some memory for you.
yeah, I mean, you don't want to always be swapping large amounts of data,
Right,
because your hard drive will
right.
eventually, these SSDs, even though they're not physical drives, right, they will eventually slow down and
Yeah,
start to have
they have a
problems and stuff
lifespan.
like that. But unless you're keeping your computer for 5 or 10 years, probably not going to be an issue.
Yeah, and 1 or 2 GB of space, to allocate to a memory. I don't think
Yeah,
it's going to really make a big deal over the life of the. You're right. You're only going to have it for 5 to 8 years anyway, right?
if
I
that,
don't think.
right?
Yeah, if that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a 10 plus year computer person, you should invest, right? And you should
Right.
buy more memory and buy more hard drive space to future proof. But if you're a 3 year, like I've been on this MacBook,
Yeah.
not a whole lot you have to worry about that. So
Yeah.
let me ask you a
So.
question. So to move on to this next section here. So
Hmm.
I have Backblaze. So my backup strategy is I've got Time Machine. I plug in my external hard drive a couple of times a week. It backs it up.
Yeah.
Um, and that's great. And then I had Backblaze because there's always this thing about, well, you don't want to have just your local backup, but you also want to have a remote backup, right?
Right.
But here's my thought process as I went through and realized how little I'm actually storing on my hard drive that's
Hmm.
not part of OneDrive or iCloud. So,
Right.
and I actually just went through this with Wyatt too, because he had a Backblaze subscription for his machine and I had one for this work machine. So I actually called him the other day and I had him go through, and the only things he had left on his hard drive were those big recruiting files he was putting together when he was putting together his recruiting videos.
Hmm.
Everything else was either in documents or desktop, which syncs to iCloud.
iCloud. Yes.
And that was it. And so I'm like, do we really think we need this? Because Backblaze has increased their prices to $100 a year. It was 70.
Okay.
It's now $100 a
Wow.
year. Now they are
It's a
giving
big
you,
jump.
instead of 30 days of archive, they're giving you a year of archive. So that's a pretty
Okay.
good thing. But yeah, that was a big jump. And so for him, we decided absolutely it doesn't make
Hmm.
sense. But I'm sitting here thinking about this. If, let's say, I get my work done today, and overnight there's this problem, an EM thing comes through my house and fries
Right.
all my
Wipes
hard
everything.
drives, fries my computers, and everything else. What am I really going to lose?
Right.
I'm going to lose the GarageBand files,
Yep.
which I've already well, the source GarageBand files I would lose, not the exported MP3s that go to
Hmm.
the podcast server, right? Because those go into my OneDrive
Those are
folder.
in.
Literally, the only thing
Oh,
is
in
the
OneDrive.
raw.
Yep.
Yeah, literally the only thing is the raw GarageBand files and the raw iMovie library, which I can't
Hmm.
remember the last time I went back to I went back to an episode's MP3 or native GarageBand file or native iMovie file
Hmm.
after I had done my editing work. I can't remember the last time I've ever done that. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting here thinking about that. Okay, yes, I would lose that. But my desktop stuff, my document stuff, and my downloads folder is the only other one that I would lose, right? Anything that's gone into that downloads folder. And so I'm sitting here thinking, I don't need to. And I think it's evidenced by the fact that I did a fresh start
Yep.
and did not pull a single file
Yeah. Didn't need to
from my
retrieve
Mac
anything.
that was not in the cloud. So the question is, do I need to spend the $100 a year on that
Right.
Backblaze backup?
I don't think you need it. I wouldn't think so. Right. The majority of the things that you actually need are split between iCloud and OneDrive. And are you paying a subscription for the OneDrive
Yeah, I mean, I've
or
got
what the
Office
comp?
365, right? Because it's my
Right. Right.
company.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's my company.
So yeah, I think between those two, this is not even a third option for you. This is, so far down the line, I don't think you need it.
Yeah. And this is another one of those, right, where listening to all these voices to gather the information, but you got to decide what's right for
Right.
you. I mean, there's part of my brain that says I'd like to just have it and never have to worry about it. But then on the flip side, I'm sitting here going, why spend the $100?
Yeah.
That's another external hard drive I could buy, and I could stick it in the fireproof safe,
Right.
right? And so, yeah, I think I'm canceling Backblaze too. I already
Yeah.
did for Wyatt. So, and Backblaze is weird, by the way. If you want to cancel your Backblaze subscription, you have to go in, you have to delete the backups that exist, and then it frees up a license, and then you have to go delete the license. You can't just go, hey, I want to close my account and have them wipe everything.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. Go. When is that subscription up? When is your?
this month, so I
Oh,
have it on
this
my
month,
list
just
to,
like LastPass, right? Both
yeah,
both this month. Yeah.
yep,
Get rid of them both.
yep,
Get rid of them both. So yeah. So and we'll talk about this next, but yeah, I don't think you need it. I think go the path that you're going with the external, and then between iCloud and OneDrive. Yeah, I don't think you need it.
yeah. And I mean, and technically, I could have those two services back each other up
Yes.
if I really wanted to, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
talked about
Because you
this
still
when
have
it
plenty
comes,
of space too on your iCloud. You
yeah.
still have
I
plenty of
mean,
space.
and let's not forget we didn't mention this, but the reason I'm using 170 gigabytes is because 105 gigabytes is my photo library,
Right.
right? So, but I've got backups of that through Time Machine, and it sits in iCloud, and I didn't transfer my photos from the old Mac to the new Mac. I turned on download full resolution copies,
Hmm.
and when I woke up the next morning, it was done.
Yep. They were all there.
So I just don't see So yeah, it's another one of those examples where if you know you need it, if you need remote access to files that are sitting on a regular Mac sitting at your house, that might be a little different story. But this is a laptop that's going to go with me most everywhere. So yeah, I think I'm getting rid of that. So then the next question is, what do I change in my current backup strategy, right? So I've got one external hard drive that has everything prior to July of this year sitting in the fireproof safe already, right? And then
Hmm.
this new external hard drive has got time machine backups since then. And I'll probably just keep this as a time machine backup. Now, the great thing about the time machine backup is if I've got OneDrive files that are local on my machine, right, it's going to get backed up there.
Hmm.
But what I think I need is that once a month strategy, right? Where I'm going to go try and keep my OneDrive space clean by saying, I'm going to go, like, let's say I did it at the end of this year. I would go grab episodes 1 through 29 or 1 through 30 of Gadgets for Families, transfer all of those clear over to the hard drive, and then delete them from both my internal and from OneDrive, right?
Right.
So that the only place those would exist would be on this other external hard drive. So, I mean, the question is, I've already got 2 volumes on this external hard drive because one's the old Mac and one's the new Mac, right? And so the question becomes for that, do I change up my time machine backup strategy? Do I get
Hmm.
another external hard drive that's purely for these old stuff that I want to clear up out of the cloud? Or do I use an SSD because I've got an SSD or not an SSD? Do I use a um, uh, card, uh,
Right.
micro SD, right? Card because I've got a card slot, so that then all of those old episodes would potentially be with me. So you sent me something via text. Now I'm going to have to open it, aren't I?
Right. No, no, no. I was sending it so I didn't forget because you know how forgetful I am. So we talked last week about getting you over to a NAS instead of you having all of these different physical medias, right? And I mentioned too about not having to go with something so complex as mine. Well, the one that I sent is just it's one of those all in one that's just it's ready to go out of the box, hard drives included, and it has all of this personal cloud software, whatever. So the money you're saving on Backblaze, you know, and not going with the extra storage space on your Mac or whatever, this may be a effective solution for you, right? So depending on the capacity that you get, it goes from 1 terabyte up to, I think it goes from like 512 up to 28 terabytes, right? So you can fall anywhere in the space with that. And this will kind of automate some of those processes too, right? You can get some of these and again, I sent it to you. I know you had your messages silent. I didn't know you were going to see it pop up. But
No, we're good.
we can get into that later and go into some of the details, but I really think you should consider one of these network attached storages versus, you know, physically connecting it to your drive. And again, you can access this from anywhere, from any device in and outside of your home, not just something connected directly to the laptop. Now, the most price friendly would be, like I said, get one of these hard drives that's coming up Black Friday.
Yeah.
But
So here's
um,
the
w-
this. If I was going to stay in this home or planned on buying another home,
mhm,
this is a no-brainer. I mean,
right.
4 terabytes is $300, which is only like $50 more than one of those 4 terabyte Samsungs that I was looking at, right?
Right.
And then I could set my time machine up so it just ran and I didn't have to worry about plugging it in.
Right.
My fear with going with something like this is if I go and move into the RV and I'm moving around and I'm using a different kind of wireless network,
Right.
is whether something like this will work or if it would make sense to just stick with, plug it in once a week and call it good,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Yeah, and you're right. We're talking about the future, but this just needs to be plugged in an internet connection. It doesn't necessarily have to be your router. It doesn't have to be near you. This is your personal cloud, so you can put it, at at your daughter's house or your brother's house or you know what I mean, your mom's house or anywhere, as long as it has a
Yeah,
stable internet connection.
Just remember though, I'm not going to have fiber and
Right.
necessarily unlimited data cap. Right. So no, I'm not arguing with this. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I want to consider. So I'm going to think
Right.
about this. I'm going to think about one of the, like a 4 terabyte SSD that I could do this.
Right.
And I'm going to consider a micro SD card, a one
Which was
terabyte
the next
card.
thing. Yeah, yeah. The next thing we talked about, and my
Yeah.
biggest concern was the speed, the read and write speed, which they still should be fine. They still should be great, using one. And I think that's probably the best option, the
If
most
I'm,
convenient option to
yeah,
me.
I mean, my time machine backup strategy is working right now.
Right.
Right. If I had the SD card and I'm only doing it once a month, you just
Right.
drop the files overnight, and when I come in the next morning, they're done, right? They're
Right.
gone. And I wouldn't even necessarily, I could do it once a week, right? I could,
Yeah.
instead of moving 4 episodes at a time, I just move 1 episode at a time. Because right now I have to go in and tell OneDrive to remove it from my hard drive anyway, right? I
Hmm.
tell it to free up space and it just clouds it, and I'm good to go. So yeah, I think I'll take a look at this.
Yeah.
I
And you
am
see, there's
just
different
hesitant.
price ranges too.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to buy anything network related until I figure out what I'm doing
Yeah. What your
from
network is going to be, right?
correct, right? Because even if we do, and we might have to make this post show a bonus episode like we did the last time because we're running long. But
Right.
um, even if I buy a piece of land in southern Utah, which is sort of the plan, right? And I live in that spot for 8 months of the year, and I travel the other 4 months of the year,
Hmm.
right? I can't have two. I don't want two solutions. I don't want the solution for when I'm parked in my space because I have fiber
Right.
connected, right? And then I have a different solution when I'm out traveling the 4 months of the year. Now, this is all
Yep.
wishful thinking on my part, and if this is $300 and the other drives I'm looking at, and maybe there will be a Black Friday deal on one of these too, right?
Right.
I mean, I'll keep my eye on this stuff, but that's the conversation, which is why I was thinking, at least to get started, because we're going to be making these. I'm going on my retreat this next week to think about some of these strategic things, right?
Yeah.
I can buy a 512 gigabyte SD card for $35,
Yeah.
right? And I could start my
And
cleanup.
it's a
Now,
lot of
technically,
storage.
technically, I'm okay on my OneDrive right now. I'm not even halfway to the max, so I really don't have to do anything. But I just thought, okay, take advantage of Black Friday, pick up one of those things and start trying it. And to try it out for $35 or
Hmm.
even for $75 for a 1 terabyte drive or 1 terabyte SD card, I
Yeah.
can try it out. And if it works great, it works great, right? And if
Hmm.
it doesn't, I've only spent $75, not
Right.
spend 300 or
Versus, yeah.
$500 and then go, oh, this really isn't going to work in my,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I know what you mean. But so that's where I am. Either that, like I said, a NAS, or I'm liking the SD card idea, right? As long as the read write speed is where you want it to be, and it's working, or like you said, you can just leave it overnight to do those backups. But I really like that idea. When you told me, I'm like, yeah, I think that's gonna work, as long as it's one of those high capacity, those super fast speed ones.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
I'm
it's
I'm
always
curious to
local.
see when you
It's always local and
right.
it's always
You
with me,
have control over
right?
it. Yeah, yeah, you have total
And
control over your data.
it's possible that I think Time Machine will grab that and
Yeah,
back it up too.
yeah, I think so. As long as it recognizes it as a
Yeah.
an
I mean,
available
you can
drive,
exclude
it should work.
drives, but Time Machine will back it up. So in theory,
Yeah.
I'll have that stuff I'll have the stuff that I remove from the cloud double
Hmm.
backed up.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you have the redundancy built in. Backblaze is not even a fourth or
Yeah.
fifth, redundancy. Yeah, you don't need that. You don't need that level of.
Well, I'll tell you, if I decide to really go in on that trailer and I'm spending a lot of time in it, you and I are going to have a heyday getting my network and home automation and everything set up in that
Right,
trailer.
right.
That might
All right, that's gonna
require
be
a trip
fun.
to Houston.
Right.
So
That is going to be fun.
I'll go park up at Huntsville, which is one of my favorite campgrounds. You just drive up for the day.
Right.
We figure it all out. Yep.
I spent the weekend in Huntsville this past weekend. So it was about 50-minute drive. Not bad. Not bad at
Yeah.
all. And it was a little light to heavy traffic. So
Yep.
yeah, it's not a bad drive at all.
Yeah. We used to go there 5 or 6 times a year. So, all
Yeah.
right, let's breeze through some other stuff. So these are my other thoughts here. Um, so from an accessory standpoint, one of the things I thought MagSafe on this is really cool for
Mm-hmm.
charging. And
Yep.
man, is that magnet strong. If I get the magnet anywhere near the slot, it'll snap up in. Like it can jump
Right.
from the table
Right.
up in, which is great. It comes with a 70-watt charger. Mine did. I didn't upgrade. So it comes with a 70-watt charger. My previous MacBook charger is 61 watts,
Yep.
and I can still charge via USB-C. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go buy another MagSafe cable, and I still might. But for now, I'll lose a port,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. But when I'm traveling, I'm not going to be plugging everything I have here in
Right.
anyway. Because like my
Right.
USB-C
You'll have the
hub
free
has
ports.
my USB-C hub has the monitor through HDMI. It has the Anchor conference speaker, and it
Mm-hmm.
has my Logitech webcam. None of those things, which means the hub won't go with me either. But actually, the hub's got a PD port, so if I wanted to take the hub, I could still
Mm-hmm.
plug stuff in. So maybe the hub goes, but not the other stuff. And I just plug the USB-C cable into the PD port. I'm charging on that 61-watt
Right.
charger, and I don't
How
have to worry about it because I don't have to turn in the charger for
yeah.
the trade-in. It's just the MacBook.
How big is the hub? You send me pictures and
Not very
I didn't
big.
get a chance to really look into
It's
it.
about,
So it's portable?
yeah, I mean, it's like 4 inches long, inch and a half wide, quarter of an inch thick. So it's got two USB A's, a USB C, an HDMI, a card slot, again, card slot,
Okay. I
and
think I
a
see it.
PD port.
I think it's similar to the one I have. So it is
Yeah,
it is super portable.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's the other
Okay.
thing that's on my list. And I was listening to Connected, and some of these $300 and $400 CalDigit, and the one Federico's using is a pluggable one.
Hmm.
Man, those things look really, really nice. I'm just not sure I can justify that price
Right.
um,
They are
for this.
expensive.
But anyway, for this, I may buy another MagSafe cable just because MagSafe is so cool, and then I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it taking up a port. For this next trip, I'm just going to take the whole plug and cable with me, since I'm going in my trailer. It's not, but what I keep in my backpack will be the old charger and a USB-C cable, and I'll be
Yeah.
fine anywhere I go. Unless I go for a multiple day thing, what are the odds I'm going to need to charge it anyway, right? So,
Right. Right.
and with only 9 watts difference between the bricks, I just don't see that as a problem at all. Hopefully, Anchor will come out with a MagSafe cable. They don't have one though, so I'm thinking they won't because it's been like 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they're not going to.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't really see much between actual Apple stuff and third party junk from Amazon, right? As far
Yeah.
as MagSafe goes. So yeah, yeah, maybe they'll come out with one.
Yep. We talked about the external drive to clean up the storage. I think I'm going to need another stand for my desk. I just would like to angle this keyboard up just a little bit. It's sitting flat at the
Okay.
moment. But I like the keyboard on laptops versus external keyboards. I don't know what it is about them. So I
Hmm.
hadn't been using that on the old one because it was starting to, and the screen wasn't as great. But having this awesome screen sitting right in front of me and working on
Yeah.
this keyboard is perfect. So I might get a little bit of I have one, but my external monitor is sitting on both of the two that I have. So that's coming up. We talked about the Docker Hub. I'm really considering one of these Anchor Prime power stations. If you click on that link that I've got in there.
Yeah. I'm checking it out. It looks really cool.
So yeah, I'm tempted because so anyway, I can get a 200-watt, 20,000 milliamp for $111 right now, right? It's got 3 ports, so that'll actually charge the MacBook.
Wow.
So, I
And
mean,
an
that would
iPad and a phone if you your phone and the iPad if you needed it.
all at the same time.
Uh, yeah.
So yeah, that's kind
Wow.
of what I'm thinking about grabbing is something like that because it's got up to 200 watts of total output, which it says it could charge 2 laptops simultaneously at 100 watts. So I think
So I
there's
hadn't looked
two.
at the prices yet. I'm looking at it's the pricing is pretty good.
Yeah, for
The
120
pricing is
bucks. Yeah,
yeah. I was literally expecting this thing to be like $299 when I clicked on it. Yeah, that is that the price is if it and the price surprises me. You know how I am about. And
yeah,
I'm seeing discounts now too, right? This one's $19 off. I'm seeing $60 off of the 140-watt one.
yeah. So this is what I'm kind of thinking about for my next. We talked about I saved some money on this, right? So this is the kind of
Right.
stuff that I can consider. Um, so that's on my list to think about. And then you had asked if I was going to skin this at all. Well, I got
Yeah.
to think about something for the bottom, for when I
Yeah.
set it down on picnic tables and stuff. But I don't know whether I'll do that or not. But yeah,
Yeah. So and I know they have those, those clamshell cases or whatever. You get the top and the bottom. You could just buy one for what, $9 on Amazon and just use the bottom just for when you're camping, right? Just keep it in the trailer and
yeah,
you're like, oh, I'm going to go out and sit on the camp bench. You just pull it out of a drawer or something like that. So I think in the meantime, until you decide, just buy one of those, until you decide whether you want to skin or not.
I don't think I want to skin it. This thing is so nice,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
had that plastic. I had a plastic clamshell case for the one that Wyatt has. He's still using it, and they're not great, right? But like
Yeah,
you said,
they're
if all I
terrible.
really need it to
Yeah.
do is um,
Yeah. Just the bottom.
protect the bottom,
Because they don't block the
yeah,
ports. I hadn't had a problem with any that blocked the ports or anything like that, or they were kind of cut wrong. So as long as you get the one for that model, yeah, just get it. Keep the bottom half in the trailer, chunk the top half, or save it for a rainy day or something like that.
yeah, $17 for one on here.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow,
and
and
I'm
that
sure
comes with
you can
everything.
find
That
one.
comes with the hard shell case, the keyboard cover, a screen
Yeah,
protector, and a storage bag.
yeah. So find one without all of the extras, and I'm sure you can find one about around the $9 range. But man, this anchor thing, I like this.
I
I
got you
like
on
this,
that,
and
didn't I?
yeah, yeah, and I'm surprised. Look, the 130-watt one, $89. Even the one that's $60 off right now, 140 watts, 3 ports, $99. That is going to go on my student gift list for next week. So I'm stealing that from you.
Cool.
I
Oh, by
like
the way,
that.
I found one of those. It's got all the extra pieces, which I don't necessarily care about, but I found one that's in my forest green color.
Which one? What are
Nice,
you talking about?
nice dark green. The case for the MacBook.
Oh, the clamshell. The
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah, yeah.
cases.
Yep.
How much is that one?
It's $17, but it's got all the
Okay.
stuff. I can't find any without all the extras. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, I think that's it. Don't be surprised, folks, if this dropped as a bonus episode because we went long. So,
Right. This one did go long. You could drop it as a bonus episode. I don't mind those.
yeah.
I watch them.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Have a good day.
Yep. We'll see you next week. Shopping episodes. Thanks.